IDEs. What we're going to start talking about in this section is integrated development environments or integrated design environments. You might hear IDE stand for a couple of things, but basically what an IDE is the tool that you use to write your Java applications. Now we've been using an IDE, an integrated development or an integrated design environment, the whole time so far, and we've been using Notepad. That is an example of such a tool. Now, IDEs can be categorized into a couple of different categories. I've broken it down into three categories. The first category I call just a simple text editor, and that's like Notepad. Then you have text editors that are kind of amped up a little bit, beefed up a little bit, and I kind of broke that down into what are called Java-enabled text editors. And then finally, we have the next stage, which are what are called advanced Java IDEs, and I'll give you a good example of one of those. So what we're going to do in this nugget is take a look at how to use a couple of the various different IDEs that are available. Because from now on, we're going to be digging into those and using those instead of Notepad. But let's go ahead and just kind of refresh ourselves with Notepad first, and then go into some more of the detail about the other types of IDEs available. So to begin, we'll start with Notepad. Now, Notepad is the simplest text editor that you could come around, basically. It's a standard part of Windows NT, Windows 9X, Windows XP. I mean, Notepad's been around for a long time as part of the standard default build of pretty much any Microsoft operating system. Prior to Windows, Microsoft gave us Edit. However, it is still extremely powerful as a Java development tool. You can program any kind of Java application you want in Notepad, but it doesn't have any features. I mean, essentially, as we've been seeing, I go ahead and just simply type the name of a class, let's call it IDE1. I have no kind of built-in Java tools available to me. Public, static, void, main, string, args, and I go ahead and I'm basically, I have to take charge of my uh, indenting. I have to take charge of my syntax. I have to make sure that's right. System.out.println. Hi, everybody. Okay. Uh, it doesn't really integrate with a compiler, so I'm going to go ahead and save this, and we'll go ahead and put it in my Java directory that I've been using. So Java, I'll create a new folder, IDEs, and oh, I already got one, don't I? Huh, I totally missed that one. Just put you in there, and I'll call this, what are we calling this one? IDE1.java. So quote IDE1.java. Java, you see I have to put the quotes in there. And then if I want to go ahead and use this, compile it, I have to jump out to a command prompt. So just kind of go out to the command prompt. The process is kind of bulky. It's very laborious. CD Java / ID IDEs and Java C star.java. Basically compile all .java files in that directory. It'll go ahead and do that, give me my command prompt back, and then I'm ready to go here. So now I'll go Java IDE 1.class, and you can see, hi everybody. Okay, so that again is just kind of a reminder of the basic process that is involved with a program like Notepad. Now, another type of text editor is one that kind of is specialized for certain types of programming. One that I've used for a number of years is called TextPad. TextPad is a tool that allows you to integrate, it knows about HTML, it knows about Java, it knows about C++ and things like that. Let me show you one of the neatest features about TextPad. Now, I'm not, this particular CBT nugget isn't to train you specifically on these different IDEs. My main goal here is to make you aware of them so you know what's out there, because programming in text in Notepad is going to really kind of fall short here for you after a while. Plus, I'm going to start using them more and more in the various titles along this series of videos. Here's the cool tool about it, about TextPad. First of all, one of my favorite things is the ability to go into the properties and I could say view line numbers. Line numbers really help me a lot. Look at public class IDE 2. And something else that this program does is it goes ahead and it remembers indenting for me. So here I created a public class IDE 2. Let me go ahead and save this. And what's cool is I no longer will have to save this in quotes. So let me go to my IDEs directory, and I can simply say IDE2.java. And now that I've saved it as a .java file, do you see how the lettering kind of came to life here and now it's in blue? TextPad is very aware of the Java development kit and all the syntax involved. So if I do a system.out.println, hello, you can see it knows about that. Here's something else, the tools menu. If you install TextPad after you have installed your Java development kit, your SDK, TextPad looks for the SDK and then plugs this stuff in. So right from within the tool, I can compile, and when I compile, it'll let me see an error, and you can see that I've generated an error here, so we'll go ahead and fix that. I'll show you another cool thing about that here, as well as run it. So and here's the cool thing about it. If I double click on it, it could let me know what the problem is. Now the problem is obviously I didn't put in a main method. So let me go back here and let me show you another cool feature. So I'm going to do public static void main string args. You could probably already see this, the font is a little bit better. Notice how when I hit enter, it keeps the indentation. Now I'm going to type my close curly brace and it knows to indent it back. So I like that. So now I'll do a system.out.println. Hi everybody. And I'm going to go to tools, compile, and when you get really good, you'll do control, you'll know how to use like the shortcut keys here. You could see that it flashed to me that it compiled successfully. If I go into the preferences here and I say, show me the tabbed, okay, and I also like full path and title bar, and I say view document tabs, we could see the command results and you could see that this is from the compiler. Now what I could do is do a tools and I can run the application and it goes ahead and it launches a command window for me. Now this press any key to continue is put in by TextPad, so I could just hit a spacebar and I'm done. So that's a really another good advantage of it. TextPad can be downloaded from you at www.textpad.com. Really good tool. All right, there's a couple more I want to show you. Another tool that you could use is JPad Pro. You can download JPad Pro from modelworks.com. That's M-O-D-E-L works.com. And JPad Pro is a lot more powerful than something like TextPad because it integrates with other languages, including Java. You could see it's used for C#, HTML, Java, JavaScript, Perl, JSP, XML, PHP, things like that. It's a simple download and a simple installation. And once you set it up, you will have a ModelWorks startup program group and then a JPad Pro choice. You simply launch JPad Pro like you would any other Windows application. And here we go. And we get a nice little tip of the day, all that good stuff. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add a new class. So I'm going to say new, and I'm going to choose a Java file. So I've got a choice of just a Java file, a blank, or a custom Java file if I've kind of preset one up. So I'll choose just a blank Java file. The difference between a Java file and a blank Java file is the blank Java file will actually open it up using the quote blank template, and there's various templates that you can use, like we'll go ahead and create a simple public class, and I'll name the class demo1. and I'll go ahead and say create the file. And you can see what it does is it puts the author, it pulls it from the name of the computer as well as time and date it. And it sets me up as a public class demo 1 and it kind of stubs out the class for me. Notice I have line numbers, a lot rich features. Something else that's pretty neat is it also manages indentation for me. So I'll put in public static void main string args. And I'll open up a curly brace, I'll hit enter, and you could see, watch what happens when I close the curly brace, how it automatically indented back for me. Now I'm going to do a system dot, and I'm going to hit uh, tab. Now when I hit tab, it brings up for me some choices that go with the system class. One of which you'll simply see is out. So if I type OU or O, you can see it's there. It is showing me the java.io.primstream out, and I'll go ahead and select that by hitting enter. Then I'll type a dot and I'll hit tab on my keyboard again, and then it'll give me a choice of some of the methods available. I'll go ahead and type PR, and you can see it's showing me print, okay, and the various choices that the methods have for me, as well as our favorite print line, which we've been using, and we've been using the one that takes a string. So I go ahead and hit enter, and it gives me the ability to put in a string, so I'll put in hi, I like to put a comma here, hi everybody, and there we go. Now what I can do is I could go to the JDK menu, I can compile demo1.java, and if I have any errors, it will show up in the results or in the build area. Specifically the build areas, this is where any errors will show up. And I'll go ahead and put an error in there. You see here it just simply said finished. Let me get rid of the semicolon, and I will go ahead and recompile, and you'll see we'll get a syntax error there. And if I double click on line 13, it brings me back to line 13. Now, it doesn't know exactly where it is, and you'll kind of have to figure it out, but it gets you in the right neighborhood. So I'll recompile, and we see that it finished. Now what I can do is go JDK and run application or run class. I'll just run this particular class. It asks me which class do I want to run, enter the full class name just to be sure. And then if I had any kind of parameters, which we'll talk about later, I could do that. Here you can see that I want to print hi everybody, and hi everybody in fact is what's being printed. Now there are several options that I could set up. If I go into the view tab options, here, this is, remember when I was hitting tab and it would bring up the choices for me? Well, this is where I can configure some of that information. Things like the indenting. Do I want to use auto indent options? What mode do I want? Indent options. Do I want to indent on an open brace and indent brace, things like that? Do I want to go ahead and do any kind of file conversion options, things of that nature? Eclipse is a very powerful tool. It's really considered a universal tool platform because it allows you to program in various programming languages. Plus, you yourself could join the Eclipse group and enhance Eclipse if you want and be a part of that. Now, Eclipse is available for download from www.eclipse.org, and that's eclipse.org. Okay, and you could go out there and you could see, read about it. I really encourage you to get into using Eclipse. It's an extremely powerful tool, and one that we'll be using most likely throughout the remainder of this set of videos. So to download it, you go ahead and click downloads, and there's a whole list of mirror sites that you can choose to download from. Okay, so I've already downloaded it and I've put it on my desktop, and it comes as a zip file. So all you simply do to use this is extract it to a directory. So I'll just leave it on my desktop and go ahead and extract that, and it takes a few seconds. Once the files are extracted, you can go ahead and take a look at what you've got, because it doesn't, unfortunately, or fortunately, I guess depending on your outcome, it doesn't put Eclipse into a startup group like you'd find in most traditional Windows applications. Basically, you get a eclipse.exe executable, which will be used as the main executable way of starting the application. So I'm going to create a shortcut to it on my desktop here, and I'm going to minimize, or let's get rid of that main folder there. All right, so to launch Eclipse, I double click on the shortcut. And the first thing it's going to do is ask me to define a workspace. Basically, where do I want to save all my folders and files that I create? Because Eclipse not just manages Java files, it really manages Java projects. So I'm going to click Browse, and I'm going to jump out to my C, uh, my computer. Here's my Java directory, and I'm going to create a new folder called My Eclipse Stuff. Okay, and click that, and that is where I'm going to want to put that. So my Java, my Eclipse stuff. And again, that Java directory is something that I created earlier on. Now the neat thing is when Eclipse first loads, it presents you with this welcome to Eclipse 3.0 window. Let me just kind of center this stuff. And here you've got a couple of things. You could go ahead and find out what Eclipse is all about. You could do a tutorial. You could look through some samples or find out what's new in this particular release. I'm going to go ahead and close this welcome window by clicking the X up there. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the window and I'm going to say open perspective, because Eclipse really lets me program from various perspectives, at least what they have termed perspectives. A perspective you could think of is a way of configuring the IDE. Uh, I'm going to choose the Java perspective, and you'll see it's going to kind of set itself up to work with Java. It's going to load up some tools that are specific to working with the Java programming language. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and create a project. So new project, and we'll choose a Java project. And I'm going to start going through the new project wizard here. I'll give the project a name. I'll call it various demos, because I'm going to use this for a while. And it asks me here in this wizard, do I want to create this project in my default workspace, or do I want to create a new one? Also, do I want to use the project folder as the root folder for the source and the class files? In other words, do I want my .java files and my class files to be in the same directory? Just for grins, I'm going to say no. I want to separate the source from the output files, and you can see what happens here. Once I do that, it's going to bring me to an area where I could just confirm the folder structures. So you can see here, the name of my project is various demos. The source folder will be the SRC, and the output folder where the actual class files will go will be the bin folder. Okay, and we'll take a look at that once we're finished here in a second. So I'm going to click finished, and now what it's going to do is it's going to create that project and set everything up for me. Okay, let's go ahead and start using this tool here. The first thing I'm going to want to do is take a look at the Package Explorer. The Package Explorer basically stores all of the packages I'm using. Now, we haven't totally gone over packages in a lot of detail yet, so don't worry too much about it. But I'm going to right click on here, and it gives me the option to add a class. Okay, that's one way I can add a class. Another way of adding a class would be to go to File, New Class, and then finally, if I want, I could say this little C thing here, pull this down and say New Class. So Eclipse is like most traditional Windows applications in that I have the ability to use many different methods for basically doing the same thing. I could use menus, I could use toolbars, all sorts of good stuff. This is the new class wizard, and basically what I'm going to do just for right now is I'm going to create a class called Demo1. Now up here is where it starts talking back to me, and it says use of the default package is discouraged. Well, that's fine for now. We'll go over that later on. And I'm going to go ahead and say finish, and it'll go ahead and create the project for me and add my class. So now that I have a class added, let's take a look what we have here. Over on the side here, as I introduced you to earlier, is the package Explorer. This is where I could see all of the various files inside of my package. Not only that, but I could go ahead and click on the hierarchy and see a hierarchy of classes if I was using that. Now, I'm not taking advantage of any of that stuff right now, so I'll go ahead and I could choose to minimize it or maximize it. So go ahead and minimize it for right now, and it kind of hides itself off. Again, if I want, I could maximize it or go ahead and just get rid of that stuff altogether, which I am. Over here, we have the outline view. Nothing too important going on just yet, but I'm going to leave that right alone for right now. Here, you can see it puts in a nice little header. It says the date it was created. It gives me some information which we'll go over. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put in my main methods. So I'm going to do a public, let me just back that up. So public static void main, and you can see that it's kind of putting in parentheses for me, string args, and I hit enter, and let me open up a curly brace and close a curly brace. Oop, and we're done. I don't have to close the curly. Let me show you that again. I kind of moved a little too quick. I watch what happens. I type a curly brace, I hit enter, and you can see it closes the curly brace for me. And now I can do a system.out.println. And what you're seeing here is a suggestion. So Eclipse knows about all of the different methods available from system.out. So it will prompt me to go ahead and use a method should I choose to. And I'll go say hi everybody or hello. And it's putting in the quotes for me. It's doing everything for me. So it's kind of coaching me along here. And what I could do after this is I could go up to the run, and I could choose run as Java application. Let it kind of do its thing. It's going to search for a main type. It's going to ask me to save it. It saves it. And then I'm going to go to the, let me just bring this window up here. It's kind of still doing its thing. It's launching it. And here it pops up a console. If I click it, okay, we could see that hello was shot out to the console. So again, what's really neat about using a tool like Eclipse is I don't have to jump back and forth to DOS and compile and all kind of stuff like that. I have the ability to use everything all in one here. So that's a nice little tour of Eclipse. In this nugget, we took a look at some of the various tools called IDEs, Integrated Development Environments. You might also hear it called Integrated Design Environments, used for creating Java. You know, when we first started out the series, we were using Notepad, which is really a simple text editor. But then I showed you things like TextPad, which we'll probably be using a lot of in this series, as well as something called JPad Pro. Now, both of them are inexpensive, but you gotta buy them. I believe TextPad is like $27, $29 per user. But then you have Eclipse, which is kind of like the most advanced Java IDE available for you that you can use, and that's a totally free download. I hope you have found this informative, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.